We're March 1945. The German High Command has issued a standing order to every engineer unit, every demolition team, every commander responsible for a bridge crossing. If the Americans approach, blow it, no hesitation, no debate. The scorched earth policy is absolute. Rivers are the last natural barriers protecting the Reich, and every bridge must be destroyed before it can be captured. German planners are confident. They've calculated American advance rates, estimated response times, positioned demolition teams at every critical crossing. The mathematics are simple. It takes hours to prepare a bridge for demolition, seconds to destroy it, and the Americans will never move fast enough to stop the process. Then a report reaches Wehrmacht headquarters that reads like fiction. 4 major bridges, captured intact in 48 hours, all by units from Patton's Third Army. The demolition teams were there. The explosives were wired and ready, but Patton's forces arrived so fast that German engineers were captured with their hands literally on the detonator. Today we reveal how one general moved faster than an entire nation could react, and how 4 bridges became the final nails in the coffin of the Third Reich. By March 1945, the German army in the West is in full retreat. The Rhine has been crossed. The Ruhr is encircled. Every day brings Allied forces deeper into Germany. But German commanders still believe they can establish defensive lines, can trade space for time, can organize a coherent resistance. Their faith rests on geography. Germany is crisscrossed with rivers: the Lahn, the Main, the Werra, dozens of smaller waterways that cut through the landscape like natural tank traps. Each river is a potential defensive line. Each bridge is a choke point that must be destroyed. The German plan is methodical and ruthless. Engineer companies have been assigned to every major bridge. Demolition charges are pre-positioned, wired, and ready for detonation. The orders are unambiguous. At the first sign of American approach, blow the bridge. Don't wait for direct contact. Don't try to hold the position. Just destroy the crossing and retreat to the next river line. The policy has been effective. Throughout the retreat across France and into Germany, hundreds of bridges have been demolished successfully. The Americans advance to a river, find the bridge destroyed, pause to bring up engineers and bridging equipment, and waste precious time constructing temporary crossing. Those delays, German planners calculate, are what will save the Reich. The confidence is not misplaced. River crossings are among the most difficult military operations. An attacking force needs specialized equipment, engineer support, and time to establish a bridgehead on the far bank. Even with air superiority and overwhelming force, the process takes hours, at minimum, often days. And during those hours, defending forces can reposition, establish new defensive lines, and prepare the next barrier. The German High Command has studied American advance rates and concluded that even Patton, known for his speed, cannot cross rivers faster than German engineers can destroy bridges. The calculations sound. What they haven't factored in is that Patton isn't trying to cross rivers. He's trying to capture bridges before the Germans can destroy them. The difference is everything. Crossing a destroyed bridge requires engineers, pontoons, time. Capturing an intact bridge requires only speed. And speed is what Patton has been perfecting for 3 years of combat. His Third Army has developed tactics specifically designed to seize bridges before demolition teams can react. Small, fast-moving armored columns called flying columns or ghost columns are assigned the mission of racing ahead of the main force, bypassing German and hitting bridge sites before defenders know they're coming. The tactic is high risk. These columns operate far in advance of support, with exposed flanks and uncertain supply lines, but the reward is worth the risk. An intact bridge means an entire armored division can cross in hours instead of days. The Germans are aware of these flying columns in theory. Intelligence reports mention American reconnaissance units operating ahead of the main force. But German commanders assume these are small patrols gathering information, not combat forces capable of seizing and holding critical objectives. The idea that a company-sized force could penetrate deep into German-held territory, capture a fortified bridge site, and hold it until the main force arrives seems tactically unsound. Bridge defenses include not just demolition teams, but security forces, often a reinforced company with heavy weapons and prepared positions. A small American force, even if it reached the bridge, would be overwhelmed before it could prevent demolition. That's the theory. Patton is about to demonstrate the theory is wrong. Between March 22nd and March 24th, 1945. Patton's Third Army is driving east at maximum speed. Multiple corps are advancing on parallel routes, pushing German forces back in disorder. The front is fluid, chaotic, with German units scattered and communication breaking down. Into this chaos, Patton inserts his ghost column. These are not reconnaissance patrols. They're reinforced tank companies with attached infantry, engineers, and sometimes artillery support, organized for speed and shock action. Their mission is simple: race to the next river, capture the bridge, hold until the main force arrives. 4 separate columns are dispatched to 4 different river crossings. Over the next 48 hours, they will execute one of the most remarkable feats of mobile warfare in modern history. The ghost columns operate on a principle that seems to violate military common sense. Move so fast that you're inside the enemy's decision cycle before they realize you're a threat. Traditional military operations allow time for reconnaissance, for planning, for coordination with adjacent. Ghost columns have no such luxury. They receive a map coordinate, an objective, and a timeline measured in hours. Everything else is improvisation. The first column departs at dawn on March 22nd, targeting a bridge over the Lahn River near Limburg. The force consists of 15 Sherman tanks, a company of mechanized infantry and half-tracks, a platoon of combat engineers, and a handful of assault guns for fire support. Total strength, about 200 men. They're racing toward a bridge defended by an estimated company of German infantry, fortified positions, and a demolition team with enough explosives to drop the span in. On paper, the force is too small for the mission. In practice, Patton is counting on speed to make force irrelevant. The column moves down back roads and farm tracks, bypassing major highways where German units might be retreating. They encounter scattered resistance. Roadblock here, a half-hearted ambush there. Each time, the column doesn't stop to fight. Tanks suppress the opposition with machine gun fire while the column accelerates past. German units attempting to block the route find themselves firing at empty roads. By the time they react, the Americans are a mile gone. Radio reports reach German command posts. American armor sighted moving east. The reports are filed, analyzed, assessed. By the time German staff officers plot the sighting and realize a significant force is driving toward Limburg, that force is already approaching the bridge. At 3:00 p.m., the ghost column crests a hill 2 miles from the Limburg Bridge. The commander halts, scans the objective through binoculars, and sees exactly what he expected. The bridge is intact, German troops are visible on both banks, and there's no sign of panic or preparation for demolition. The Germans don't know the Americans are here. The element of surprise is total. The column commander makes his decision in seconds. No artillery preparation, no careful approach, just maximum speed straight at the bridge. Tanks kick into high gear and race down the road. The German bridge security detachment sees them coming at 3:07 p.m. At that range, with no warning, there's no time for organized response. The detachment commander screams for the demolition team. The team leader runs for the detonator box. American tanks are closing at 30 miles per hour, 1 mile, half a mile. The demolition team leader reaches the box, throws open the cover, grabs the detonator handle. An American tank shell hits the German command post. Another shell takes out the machine gun position covering the bridge approach. Infantry leap from their half-tracks and sprint toward the bridge on foot. The German demolition team leader pulls the detonator handle. Nothing happens. He tries again. Still nothing. American engineers had been briefed that German bridge demolition used electrical detonators with wires running from the charges to a control point. The first American tank to reach the bridge has an engineer riding on the deck. He leaps off while the tank is still moving, runs to the nearest wire visible on the bridge deck, and cuts it with wire cutters. Then he cuts another, and another. The demolition team pulls the handle a third time. The charges are dead. German engineers installed redundant systems, but they never anticipated someone cutting the wires under fire while the battle for the bridge was still raging. By 3:20 p.m., 13 minutes after the attack began, American forces control both ends of the Limburg Bridge. The German security force has been killed, captured, or scattered. The demolition team is in custody. And most importantly, the bridge is intact and already being cleared for traffic. The ghost column's half-tracks are positioned to defend against counterattack. Engineers are checking the structure for damage and removing the dormant explosive charges. And a radio. Message goes back to 3rd Army headquarters. Limburg Bridge secured, intact, ready for main force crossing. This scene repeats with variations at 3 more bridges over the next 36 hours. A bridge over the Werra River near Haringen falls at dawn on March 23rd. The ghost column arrives while morning fog still blankets the river, catches the German defenders completely unprepared, and has the bridge secured before the fog lifts. A main river crossing near Hanau is taken in late afternoon the same day after a 3-hour running battle where American tanks simply overran German defensive positions through sheer momentum. And a fourth bridge over the Fulda River falls on March 24th, when the ghost column arrives to find the German demolition team had already retreated, leaving the charges in place but unguarded. The most dramatic bridge capture happens at the Werra River crossing near Haringen. The ghost column assigned to this objective is smaller than the others, just 10 tanks and 50 infantry. They're racing against time and information. German forces in the area are disorganized but still numerous. If word reaches the bridge defenders that Americans are approaching, the span will be destroyed long before the column arrives. The entire mission depends on moving faster than German communication. The column commander decides on a night approach. Moving armor in darkness is dangerous. Navigation is difficult, ambushes are deadly, and coordination with infantry breaks down. But it also means the column might reach the objective undetected. At 11 p.m. on March 22nd, the column moves out under blackout conditions. No headlights, minimal radio traffic. Tank commanders navigate by compass and pre-studied maps. The infantry follows in their half-tracks, trusting the tankers to choose the route. They encounter a German roadblock at midnight. In daylight, this would trigger a firefight, alerts would be sent, and the bridge mission would be compromised. In darkness, the American tanks simply crash through the roadblock at speed. Startled German soldiers scatter. By the time they realize what happened and try to radio a warning, the American column is 3 miles away, and the German field telephone lines have been cut. The warning never arrives. At 4:30 a.m. on March 23rd, with dawn beginning to lighten the eastern sky, the column approaches Haringen. The fog is thick off the river, reducing visibility to 50 yards. Perfect conditions. The tanks roll through the outskirts of the town, meeting no resistance. The Germans have security patrols, but in the fog, the patrols hear engines and assume it's their own traffic. By the time anyone realizes these are American Shermans, the column is already at the bridge. The Werra Bridge is guarded by a reinforced platoon and a demolition team. The charges are wired. The detonator is, but the guards are not at full alert. It's early morning, fog obscures everything, and nobody expects American armor to appear out of the mist in what should be secure rear area. The first indication the Germans have that something is wrong is when a Sherman tank emerges from the fog less than 100 yards from the bridge. The guard at the detonator position reacts instantly. He reaches for the handle. An American machine gunner on the lead tank has been briefed that German demolition positions are usually marked by sandbags and camouflage netting. He sees the position, recognizes it, and fires a burst. The German guard goes down. The detonator remains unpulled. What follows is a close quarters battle fought in fog so thick that combatants can barely see each other. American infantry storm the bridge on foot, while tanks provide covering fire. German defenders fight back with rifles and machine pistols. The sound of gunfire echoes off the water. Grenades explode. For 10 minutes, the outcome is uncertain. Then, American engineers reach the demolition charges and start cutting wire. German soldiers see what's happening and try to reach the detonator position. They're cut down by American fire. At 4:47 a.m., the senior American officer present declares the bridge secured. 17 minutes of combat. One bridge saved. The main river crossing at Hanau is different. A daylight assault against prepared positions. The ghost column arrives at 2 p.m. on March 23rd to find the bridge is not only defended but under observation from German artillery on the far bank. The commander faces a choice: withdraw and wait for the main force, or attack immediately and accept heavy casualties. He chooses to attack. American tanks charge the bridge approaches under artillery fire. 2 Shermans are knocked out in the first minute. The others keep coming. Infantry dismount and advance under fire. It's brutal, direct, and terrifyingly fast. The German bridge defenders are competent and determined. They hold their positions and return fire, but they're also shocked by the sheer audacity of the attack. American doctrine says you don't assault a defended bridge with a company-sized force. You bring up artillery, suppress the defenses, then attack with overwhelming. This column is doing nothing. They're just driving straight at the objective as if defense doesn't matter. The psychological impact is significant. German soldiers, already demoralized by weeks of retreat, see American tanks charging through their own artillery fire and begin to waver. At 2:31 p.m., The first American tank reaches the western end of the bridge. German demolition team sees this and pulls the detonator. Nothing happens. In the chaos of the battle, nobody noticed that an American artillery shell hit near the control point and severed the detonator. The charges are armed and ready, but electrically dead. The demolition team leader stares at the useless detonator, realizes what it means, and runs. German infantry see him running and understand. The bridge can't be destroyed. If the bridge can't be destroyed, defending it is pointless. The defense collapses. By 3:00 p.m., American forces control both ends of the Hanau Bridge. The span that was supposed to delay the Third Army for days has been captured in less than an hour of fighting. The capture of 4 intact bridges in 48 hours doesn't just accelerate Patton's advance. It destroys the entire German defensive concept for central Germany. Every defensive plan the Wehrmacht has drawn up assumes bridges will be destroyed, that rivers will provide time for reorganization, that the American advance will be slowed by the need to bridge each water obstacle. Those plans are now worthless. Within hours of each bridge capture, lead elements of Third Army armored divisions are crossing and fanning out on the far bank. The Limburg Bridge over the Lahn opens the way into the German heartland. By evening of March 22nd, the 6th Armored Division is streaming across. Tanks, trucks, artillery, supply vehicles, an endless column of American military power pouring over a bridge that should have been rubble at the bottom of the river. German forces that were retreating in good order suddenly find American armor behind them, cutting off withdrawal route. Units that were planning to defend the next river line discover Americans are already across that river and advancing. The entire defensive timeline collapses. At the Werra Bridge near Haringen, the situation is even more dramatic. German forces north of the river assumed they had days to retreat and regroup. When American tanks appear on the north bank by mid-morning of March 23rd, panic spreads. Withdrawal orders are countermanded. New orders arrive. Retreat east immediately. But retreat routes are already compromised. American columns are moving faster than German units can march. By afternoon, entire battalions are surrendering not because they've been defeated in combat, but because they're surrounded with no way out. The pocket that forms around the Haringen bridgehead captures over 3,000 German soldiers in 36 hours. The main river crossing at Hanau becomes a highway for American exploitation forces. The 4th Armored Division crosses and drives straight for Frankfurt, which falls on March 26th. Behind them, the 11th Armored Division crosses and swings north, linking up with forces that crossed at Limburg. The two pincers trapped German forces that were still trying to establish defensive positions. The Germans are not routed, they're simply overtaken. Their defensive positions are solid, their units are intact, but the Americans are already 10 miles past them before they can even deploy. The 4th bridge, over the Fulda River, almost seems anticlimactic. By the time American forces arrive on March 24th, German command in the region has lost cohesion. The demolition team assigned to the bridge had received no orders, had no communication with higher headquarters, and had already withdrawn to avoid being cut off. American engineers find the bridge wired with demolitions, but completely unguarded. They spend 2 hours carefully removing the charges, then signal for armor to cross. Not a shot is fired. The absence of resistance is itself evidence of total German collapse. Within 72 hours of capturing the first bridge, Patton's Third Army has advanced over 80 miles beyond the Rhine, crossed multiple river barriers that should have taken weeks to overcome, and created a salient so deep that German forces on either side are isolated and useless. The German front in central Germany doesn't fall back to a new defensive line. It simply ceases to exist as a coherent entity. Individual units are still fighting, local commanders are still issuing orders, but there's no front, no defensive scheme, no organized resistance, just scattered groups of German soldiers surrounded by American forces that arrived so fast, nobody had time to establish a defense. The exploitation continues for days. American armor races east, encountering sporadic resistance, but nothing that slows the advance. Supply lines stretch dangerously thin. Eisenhower's headquarters sends worried messages about exposed flanks and the risk of counterattack. Patton ignores them. He understands something his superiors don't. The German army is broken not by casualties but by tempo. As long as he keeps moving faster than they can react, there will be no counterattack because there's no organized force capable of mounting. The 4 bridges gave him the speed. The speed gave him victory. And victory came so fast that the Germans never had time to understand what hit them. After the war, during interrogations of captured German generals, the subject of Patton's bridge seizures comes up repeatedly. The German officers, many of them highly experienced commanders who had fought on multiple fronts, struggle to explain what happened. They use words like impossible and unnatural. They describe American speed as something outside their experience, faster than military operations are supposed to function, and they keep returning to those 4 bridges as the moment they knew the war was lost. General Hermann Balck, who commanded German forces facing Patton in March 1945, is particularly candid in his post-war debriefings. He states that German doctrine assumed bridge demolitions would buy time measured in days. The calculations were based on historical data: how long it takes to prepare a river crossing, how long to bridge a gap, how long to establish a bridgehead and resume the advance. Those calculations, Balck admits, were correct for traditional military operations. What they didn't account for was an opponent who treated bridge seizure not as a supporting operation, but as the main effort, who was willing to risk entire companies on high-speed raids deep into German territory, and who moved fast enough that defensive measures didn't have time to function. Balck describes receiving reports on March 22nd that American forces had captured a bridge over the lawn. His initial reaction was disbelief. The bridge was fortified, guarded, and wired for demolition. How could it fall intact? He demanded verification. The verification came. The bridge was in American hands, charges had been cut, and American armor was already crossing. Balck immediately issued orders to defend the next river line. Before those orders could be distributed, reports arrived of a second bridge captured, then a third. Within 48 hours, Balck realized his entire defensive scheme had evaporated. The rivers that were supposed to provide defensive barriers were now highways for American exploitation. Another captured general, Wilhelm Reinhard, commanded artillery units in the region and watched the collapse from a different perspective. He describes the psychological impact on German forces when they learned that bridges were being captured intact. German soldiers had been told that scorched earth would slow the Americans, that even in retreat, Germany could trade space for time. The bridge captures shattered that belief. Reinhard says morale collapsed faster than the front. Soldiers who had been willing to defend river lines lost heart when they realized the Americans could simply bypass their positions faster than they could retreat. The will to resist, already fragile after years of losing, broke completely. Multiple German officers mentioned Patton specifically in their interrogations. They describe him as operating outside normal military logic, as a commander who understood that in mobile warfare, speed creates its own force multiplier. One officer states bluntly, "We knew how to defend against American firepower. We knew how to counter American air superiority. We did not know how to defend against American speed." Patton moved faster than our communications, faster than our decision-making, faster than our ability to react. By the time we understood where his forces were, they were already somewhere else. The consensus among captured German commanders is that the 4 bridges, more than any single battle or bombing campaign, represented the true end of organized resistance in central Germany. After those bridges fell, German forces in the region were not defeated, they were simply overtaken. They could still fight, could still hold local positions, could still inflict casualties, but they could not establish a coherent defense because there was no defensive line anymore, just American forces everywhere, moving too fast to contain. The war would continue for another 6 weeks, but the German generals knew in late March that it was over. The bridges told them so.